Good morning, everybody. Here on this Saturday morning, just got the number for Batman, 57 million, which is a very solid number. It is the 32nd biggest opening day of all time. So if you look at the multiple of this, and basically when you look at a Friday number, so whatever the film is, we get that Friday number, in this case 57 million. You look at the multiple. So you're trying to figure out what is going to be that number that you multiply 57 million by to get to the weekend number. And the number that I came up with, the comparisons that I used to end up with 118 or right about 120, I think right in that range, right, is Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, films that do not have as heavy of a family component, because we've discussed ad nauseum how the Batman does not have that component, right? It doesn't have the MCU families all in today and tomorrow during matinees. So when you remove that, then you're going to get a multiple that's lower, closer to 2. So basically, you're looking at a little over a 2 multiple. I know this is like stats and Moneyball and all this stuff. Speaking of that, I just grabbed Moneyball and added it. Love that film. But when you look at the multiple, it's about a 2 point whatever, and the number ends up being 118 off 57. So it's a solid number. I think that 120 was the absolute bottom number here for me, because again, we're talking about Batman. We're talking about a Mount Rushmore superhero. You're talking about not a fringe character from a comic book. Someone brought up Logan. Are you kidding me? You're telling me Logan? Wolverine. At one time, Wolverine, yes, he scaled the heights of the superhero pantheon, right? All the way up there. Buddy, listen, Batman or Wolverine, which is going to sell more tickets? Batman, all day, every day. You can't make special rules for films because it's the first of a series, or because it's a Matt Reeves and it's cinephilic, and the 3 hour thing, obviously, that's an issue. But I think, again, Batman should be higher than this. I don't hate the number of 120. I'm just saying that you were talking about one of the biggest superheroes in the comic book universe, right? When you throw them out, you say, who are your favorite superheroes? To the average person, they're going to throw Batman in there in the top 3. So if you're talking 120, this should be 150 or higher. I really thought we'd be at 175, 200. Now, we are going to get decent legs out of this. You guys know what legs are. Legs are consecutive weekends. As we go on here, what is this film going to do? Is it going to hold? And I think it will, because there's really nothing else to see. You got that going for you, right? You can see the Batman or literally nothing until the Lost City, or the city of whatever the hell it is, with Sandra Bullock and Brad Pitt and Channing Tatum, whatever that is. That's like the next movie that we're going to get. So, and that's not even a direct, competition, but it's a new film. So people have something else to go check out. But in the meantime, the Batman owns the multiplex here for the next several weeks. So it should do very solid business. But again, guys, when you remove families from the equation, that is a killer. And they're not completely removed, right? Because it is PG-13, it's not R. But it's interesting. What if they would have made this movie R? Would we be almost at the same number? I feel like we would. I do, because there's still going to be parents that take their kids to see an R-rated Batman. And obviously, there's some parents that are going to take their kids to see the serial killer Batman movie at PG-13. So because of that, why, Warner Brothers might be saying to themselves today, why didn't we just make it R? Go for it. But as you know, only a few superhero films, even though Joker's not a superhero, but he's part of a CVM, and of course Deadpool, those have succeeded in the R realm. And that would be a major gamble. But I bet you the number wouldn't be that different. In fact, it might be higher. People are like, oh, it's an R-rated, Batman. Let's go see that. It ends up with, Deadpool numbers, maybe 130, goes even higher. Who's to say it couldn't? I think that's legit. So here's the thing. I think that, this should be coming in higher than Deadpool. And Edward, thank you there. Deadpool 2 did what? 125 based on 53 opening day. Okay, yes, it is possible to jump. Okay, I agree, but in this case, I think it's fair. Do you not think that Batman v Superman is a very good comparable if you're going to go ahead and go for your multiple? I think it absolutely is. So in that case, that number and Suicide Squad, that those numbers are closer to 2, so we end up with 120. But really, should Batman be coming in under Deadpool? I understand that Deadpool was this new thing, right? Especially the first one. But it was at what, 135? I tweeted that out last night. Batman should not be coming in under Deadpool. Don't you agree? Really think about that. You can't argue with me and tell me that Batman isn't one of the biggest superheroes on the planet, top 3, top 5, if you want to be, pushing around a little bit. No way. Top 3. And as such, this film needs to come in higher. But it does have an A- cinema score, which is better than I thought. I thought we'd be looking at a B+. Let's explain CinemaScore. So many people, we discussed this back and forth. CinemaScore and, what's a good CinemaScore grade? Here's the deal. CinemaScore is what the average moviegoer thinks about a film. So they hand you this sheet. You can Google it and look at it, that has all these different things, such as your age, profile, all these things. And then it will have this, how do you recommend the film? That's a biggie. And then what's your overall grade? Because studios obviously want people to recommend films because that's called word of mouth, and then more people come to see the movie. But in this case, A- is not as strong as obviously an A or A+. Here's how CinemaScore basically works. The lower it goes, it's super heavy top weighted, right? So the top of it matters. So when you get to an A, that is really the absolute best you want to be. Below that, A- says that people had a few issues with it. B+ sounds good, right? If you're in school, you get a B+ on your math test, you're like, yeah, that's good. Not in CinemaScore world. It's just not. It's not a great score. Studios don't want to go lower than A-. And the good news is here, Warner Brothers didn't go lower than A-, so that they can work with as they go forward. What that tells you is that they'll be able to have at least decent, solid word of mouth, and that will help successive weekends as we keep going. But again, I just don't know how we're going to sit here and say 120 million is some kind of massive success. And I know that there was Homecoming, the first of the Spider-Man movies, with Tom Holland at 117, or I believe was the number on that, in the summer of 2017, whatever summer that was. That is, I guess we can use that. I can't argue that that's the first of a reboot, blah, 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 right? But I still feel like now, with this build that we have had for the Batman over the past several weeks with nothing in the multiplex, you have an opportunity to absolutely smash it. And I was expecting 150 or higher. Were you not? Are we really thinking that 120 was the number? Again, I go back to No Way Home, and I understand this was never going to be No Way Home. I get it, lightning in a bottle. But remember this, that was again during Omicron. That was in the middle of winter when everyone was like, oh, I don't know if you should go to a movie theater. We were still doing that. And people said, we're still going to go to a movie theater, to the tune of 260 million. And then on it goes to, or I think we're at 800 million, right? Domestic right now. So what that says is that we can't use that crutch any longer. There is COVID out there. Yes, there is. But people are not living like that anymore, like they were in 2020, 2021. It is 2022. We just came off a $260 million opening, 800 million in the bank domestic for No Way Home, and you've got Batman at 120. I just want to see that number closer to 150 or higher. It's not a total loss. I think if it came in at 100, we got a problem. But here's the thing too. Even though I throw out that number of 118 and I'm using my multiple and I'm saying, 57 turns into 118, I think that's fair. But be honest with me. How many people do you know that ran out to see the Batman this week ASAP, whether it was on Tuesday for those fan screenings, Wednesday investor screenings, or Thursday. And now that Friday's over, who's left to see the movie? I mean, yes, there is the average person who waited, but I'm just saying from the film Twitter perspective, is there anyone who has not seen this film by now on a Saturday morning? I feel like everybody's already seen this film. And I think that that is going to be an issue that we're going to have a front load. So if this number comes in a little bit under that 118 or 120, that range, if it comes in under, then that points exactly to what I said. Everybody who wanted to see it ran out to see it. And that is going to be an issue going forward. And I also think this, do you want to see the Batman again? For me, I actually passed on seeing the Batman again for the second time in 7 days because it is a 3-hour film. I will watch it probably next week, but I didn't run out to see it again like I did No Way Home. And I think that that's going to be an issue too. The repeat viewings aren't going to be as high as they were for No Way Home. They'll get there, but I think maybe it's next week or next weekend. So you're going to see it maybe more of a slow burn, which is perfect because that's what the film is, a slow burn. So I think that, you know, here, Jim has a comment here. I think that Spider-Man had more of a, you have to see this right away than Batman does. I agree in that people were talking about the 3 Spider-Men. You knew that they were in the film. You wanted to see it. So there was that curiosity factor that was peaked, that was just pinging the top, right? I get it. But again, this was a film in Batman that people wanted to see what Matt Reeves did with it, right? You wanted to see, I don't want to get into spoilers, but you know, at the end of the movie, we want to see if this certain person is going to show up. And it turns out that, yes, that person did show up. But you know what I'm saying? That there's still going to be that curiosity factor. I don't think anybody at this point wants to be in late in any movie discussion. As we sit here on a Saturday morning and talk about Batman, do you want to be at the point where we're having this discussion, you haven't seen it? No, because you've seen it. I guarantee that everyone who's watching right now has seen it. Now, granted, we have a very niche audience, right, of film lovers and box office discussers. So that's a different situation. But still, I think that even though you can say people ran out to see No Way Home, and I agree, they did, they still wanted to run out and see the Batman. Maybe not quite at the same level, but still at a very high level. It's not like some random film that you're like, I'll get to it whenever I get to it. This is a film that has an urgency that you need to see because we want to discuss it. And we want to talk about all the action that, you know, Matt Reeves put into it and the debate over whether it was, you know, an accurate depiction and all these things that we discuss on Film Twitter. But I will say that, again, the issue today and tomorrow for this film very clearly is going to be the missing family component. The family of 4 from my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, that goes and sits in the movie theater and watches the Batman with their popcorn, and they spend whatever that is, $75 for 4 seats and popcorn, and maybe it's more than that now. But that component's not going to be there as heavy, right? Because it's just not for kids. It's a 3-hour long movie. It's serial killer. It's David Fincher and, you know, Batman combined. Although I think Matt Reeves, we can talk about Matt Reeves no longer as David Fincher light or esque. He is Matt Reeves, always has been, and that makes me so happy. Again, I go back to Let Me In, the remake of The Vampire, Let the Right One In. And when you watch that film, you go, this is a director of significant worth, of an elite level talent. Greg Fraser was in with him on that film. Go back and watch it. I know not everybody has. Watch Let Me In, and then you'll be like, oh, wait, this is the Batman, you know, back in 2010, 12 years ago. So I think that there's definitely, and this is William here, I'm going to use your comment, you know, simple MCU today, it's way more huge than DCEU. It's not even close. And I listen, I don't have a dog in the fight. I've said this, I'm going to say this so many times on this channel. I am not a DCEU guy. I'm not an MCU guy. I'm a film guy. I like films. I like good films. You see the ones behind me. These are primarily, everything you see up here are films that I love. Okay, there's a few that I don't love as much. Like, I always point to this one, Wonder Woman 84. Horrible film. In fact, that's a joke that they sent out an award screener. Every single one of these, I'm just going to point to that and laugh. But I'll let you laugh. But I love films, so I don't really care about DCEU or MCU. I care about discussing these films and what the performances are. And I will admit to you, if you look on paper, what we're looking at, the money and the financials of all these things, go back to the Suicide Squad. When you look at these things, MCU obviously is a bigger draw than DCEU. We can't argue that, because we can't have this discussion, because it's true. We see it over and over and over, and we're seeing it again this weekend. But that's, again, I knew that going into this. I think we all do, that MCU is the king of the CBM hill. Okay, but that doesn't mean DCEU is way back and it can never get there. I love what Warner Brothers is doing. I love that they let Matt Reeves make this movie the way that he did, because it is not a typical studio film, just like Joker isn't. And I know everyone has their issues with Joker, but again, at the end of the day, they let Todd Phillips make a mega violent, not superhero, but obviously a comic book movie. They let him turn Joker into a vicious, violent person, which we've seen in movies, but comic book style. This was very grounded in reality, as you know, Taxi Driver and King of Comedy. I got it. Yeah, right. But this is, really allowing these filmmakers to make these works of art. And I think that is what Joker is. I think absolutely the Batman is that. And Warner Brothers, stop shitting on Warner Brothers. Okay. They have their issues like every studio, but the fact they allow these directors to make the films they want to make and their visions, largely, that should be applauded. And I think that as much as I respect Kevin Feige and MCU and what they're doing down there at Marvel Studios, they know what they're doing. They know how to put together a very crowd-pleasing film that also works for comic book fanatics. But he's not going to let a filmmaker do what Matt Reeves did to the Batman or Todd Phillips did to Joker. They're never going to allow that to happen. So we need to be cool with Warner Brothers and, acknowledge when they do something right rather than always say they do something wrong. So again, back to the number today, 57 million for Friday. That includes the Thursday night preview. Again, Warner Brothers put the Tuesday and Wednesday, those totals, they threw those into the Thursday number. So that 21.6 million Thursday, that was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So now you're looking at this Friday of 57 million. So you're looking at an actual Friday once the Thursdays were taken out of, what is that, 36 million, whatever the number is, 36. So it's okay. That's not a huge number. Again, I want to see that number higher. Let's see what happens for, the prediction for this week, Chris Gore. Do you not read my Twitter? I already put my prediction out there. It's 118 million, dude. 118, because the multiple here, 57 times 2.0, whatever that is. I looked at, obviously, I combined basically Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. You look at a little over a 2 something, and I think all the trades are at 120. So they're doing the same thing. But my number is 118. It's a little under that, but we're in the 120 ballpark. If it goes over 120 and pops 130, 140, I'll be shocked. Because again, to do that, you have to have families all in, and they're not. And because they're not, that means that number is going to go lower. So it's going to be a lower multiple. Look at Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi had a multiple, I want to say, it was way over, it was 2.5 or higher. Because why? Families at the multiplex buying tickets. So when you have that situation like Shang-Chi, you have almost a 2.5, 3 multiple for a 3 weekend. For a 3-day weekend, and then I think it had a Monday. There was a holiday in there, right? So it even went higher than that. But again, that's more of a family-oriented, family-accessible film than the Batman is. So 120 million is okay. Edwards says he's going to go with 122 to 125, but God, Gore's on here telling me that Twitter sucks, YouTube is better. No. Listen, Twitter has its purpose. There's no question about it. Twitter's great to get out there and throw things out. In fact, I sent a tweet out last night about Ben Shapiro, and he said the Batman is terrible or it sucks, whatever he said, something like that. And I said, well, I had to remember. I go, wait a second, Ben Shapiro movies. Holy shit, that guy hated Good Time. I mean, how do you hate Good Time? If you listen, I'm going to go on a tangent here because this is what I'm here on a Saturday morning. We did our Batman discussion and it's recorded so you can listen to it. You need to come down on the right side of films repeatedly if you're going to be a film critic. You cannot be on the wrong side. And if you've watched Good Time, you know what the right side of that film is. It's a hell of a film. Okay. It is cinema. It is the Safdie brothers kicking total ass. Good Time mauls Uncut Gems. It's not even a competition. Good Time is leaner, it's meaner, it's a badass film. And when Ben Shapiro said Good Time is no good, I go, what? That was like in 2018. I said, first of all, you can't say that because when you do, you instantly invalidate everything you're going to say about a film going forward in perpetuity, forever, forever. We can't trust you again. And same with the Batman. You can't say the Batman's terrible. You can say you have issues with it, but from a filmmaking perspective, you cannot tell me that's a terrible film. There are some people, and this is the cold, hard reality of it. There are some people when they watch films that only watch at a very surface level. They don't pay attention. They can't access with their, brain all the elements that go into filmmaking, cinematography, score, editing, all the things that we're looking at, the way a film is calibrated. If you can't see that, and I think Ben Shapiro can't, based on not liking the Batman in Good Time, you tell me that you don't see calibration in film at all, because that is a very huge component of filmmaking, how well made the film is. And both of these films are really off the charts when it comes to that. And so there you go. There's my sidebar on Ben Shapiro and not liking really good films. Don't be on the wrong side of film sometimes. Be on the right side consistently. Like Lamb kicks ass. Dune kicks ass. Avengers Endgame kicks ass. Blade Runner 2049, every scene goes on too long. But I still love the filmmaking because we all know the filmmaker there is hella talented. Okay. So let's wrap this like this. 57 million. I think it's a decent number. It's not a bad number, but I do want to see that number higher. That's the cold hard spin on it. There's no way to say that this was a complete home run. It's not a miss. Okay. It's not quite a disappointment, but it's closer to that than it is to a complete home run. Let's hope it continues to build over the next several weeks. I think we're going to get a sequel no matter what. Monday, we're going to get a sequel. Warner Brothers is going to be like, let's go ahead and do this. We love Matt Reeves. We want to lock this guy down just like Fox did with Apes. They brought him in for 2. He makes 2 and 3. He changes that franchise. And you're talking about a game changer. And I think, obviously Warner Brothers saw the same thing when they hired him to do the Batman. This is not the only Matt Reeves Batman movie we're getting. There's no chance. Edward Says Good Times on Hulu. Yes, I will watch that again. I might even pull the DVD out of this sucker and watch it. No, I'd rather watch it on Hulu because I'm going to get a 1080 experience. But guys, thanks again for watching. We'll do it again probably tomorrow when we get the official number. If it is 118, 120, then I want you guys to like and subscribe because that is I nailed it at 118. If it hits 118, like a 118.1, then I want, tons of likes. That better happen. I bet you that's what the number is. It's going to be right around there. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Like, subscribe. Appreciate it, guys. As always, we'll talk again soon.